man spends 20 years climbing the corporate ladder. He sacrifices weekends, misses birthdays, works late, says yes to every opportunity because he believes one thing: one day, it'll all be worth it. Then that day finally arrives. He gets the promotion, the salary, the respect, the office everyone dreams of, by every definition the world gives us. He has made it, but one morning he sits alone in that beautiful office and realizes he's completely empty. Not because he failed, because he succeeded at the wrong thing. That uncomfortable realization is exactly why Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People has transformed millions of lives. Not because it teaches you how to become more productive, not because it promises wealth, and certainly not because it gives you another morning routine. It changed people because it asked a question almost nobody asks. What if the problem isn't your effort, but your definition of success? Today, we're surrounded by advice telling us to optimize everything. Wake up earlier, read more books, download another productivity app, build better systems, improve your habits. The message is always the same: do more and eventually your life will make sense. But what if that's backwards? What if real transformation doesn't begin with doing more, but with seeing differently? That's the shift Stephen Covey spent years trying to explain. He believed most people aren't failing because they're lazy. They're failing because they're using the wrong map. They're chasing achievements without questioning the destination, winning at the wrong game. That's why this book has sold more than 40 million copies and continues to influence leaders, entrepreneurs, parents, and everyday people decades after it was first published. Because it doesn't simply help you achieve success, it helps you redefine it. So in this video, we're not just going to walk through 7 habits, we're going to uncover the foundation beneath them. The mindset that changes how you think, how you work, how you build relationships, and ultimately, how you build a life that actually feels meaningful. Welcome to MacReads. Let's begin. Most people believe change starts with action. Stephen Covey believed it starts with identity. That single idea changes everything. Before Covey wrote this book, he spent years studying over 2 centuries of literature on success. He expected to find techniques, strategies, and shortcuts. Instead, he discovered something surprising. Earlier generations focused on character, integrity, humility, honesty, discipline. But somewhere along the way, the conversation changed. Success became about image, confidence, charisma, networking. Looking successful became more important than becoming someone worthy of success. Covey called this the difference between the character ethic and the personality ethic. The personality ethic teaches you to impress people. The character ethic teaches you to become someone people can trust. One focuses on appearance. The other transforms who you are. Imagine trying to navigate Chicago using a map of Detroit. You could follow every direction perfectly, wake up early, stay disciplined, work harder than everyone else. Yet no matter how committed you are, you'll still end up in the wrong place. Not because you lacked effort, because your map was wrong. Covey believed that's exactly how many of us live. We don't question the map. We simply walk faster. He shares a deeply personal story about his own family. His son was struggling socially, academically, and emotionally. Like many parents, Covey and his wife tried everything: encouragement, advice, positive thinking, even pressure. Nothing worked. Then they noticed something uncomfortable. Although they spoke encouraging words, deep down, they still viewed their son as inadequate. And children can sense that. People don't just hear your words, they feel your beliefs. So instead of trying to change their son, they changed themselves. They stopped comparing him to others, stopped measuring him against society's expectations, stopped seeing him as someone who needed fixing. They chose to see him as someone capable of growing at his own pace. And slowly, something remarkable happened. Their son began changing, not because he was forced to, but because the environment around him had changed. Covey's lesson is profound. Real change begins inside, not inside the other person, inside you. That's why one of his most powerful ideas still resonates today. You can fake confidence. You can fake kindness. You can even fake leadership for a while. But eventually, your character always speaks louder than your performance. Trust isn't built through clever techniques. It's built through consistent character. And that's the question this habit leaves us with. Are you spending your life trying to look successful? Or trying to become someone truly worth following? Because those are 2 very different journeys, and only one of them leads to lasting fulfillment. Most people believe they're controlled by what happens to them. Stephen Covey believed something very different. He believed your life is shaped less by your circumstances and more by how you respond to them. That idea was inspired by the work of Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived Nazi concentration camps. Frankl lost his freedom, his family, and almost everything he owned, yet he discovered something no one could take from him: his ability to choose his response. Covey built the second habit on that truth. Between every stimulus and every response, there is a space. It may only last a second, but inside that second lives your greatest power. Someone criticizes you. Someone rejects you. Life doesn't go according to plan. Those are the stimuli. Most people react immediately. They blame. They complain. They let emotions make the decision for them. They say, "You made me angry," or "This ruined my day." Proactive people think differently. They pause. They ask, "What can I control here?" Instead of surrendering their power to circumstances, they take responsibility for their next choice. That doesn't mean pretending life is fair. It means refusing to let difficult circumstances decide the kind of person you'll become. Covey reminds us that every human being has the ability to reflect, imagine a better future, recognize what is right, and choose accordingly. The question isn't whether life will challenge you. It will. The real question is whether you'll spend your life reacting or choosing. Because the moment you stop blaming everything around you and start owning your response, you stop becoming a passenger in your own life. You become the driver, and every lasting change begins there. Being proactive gives you the freedom to choose. The next challenge is deciding what deserves that choice. Here's the trap most people fall into. They're busy every single day. Their calendars are full. Their phones never stop buzzing. Yet despite all that activity, they feel like they're moving nowhere. Covey explains why through his famous time management matrix. He divides life into 4 categories: things that are urgent and important, things that are important but not urgent, things that are urgent but not important, and things that are neither. Most people spend their lives trapped in urgency: deadlines, emergencies, constant interruptions, and endless distractions. Highly effective people live somewhere else. They spend more time in the second quadrant, the important but not urgent. This is where relationships are strengthened, where your health is protected, where you learn new skills, where you plan instead of panic. The problem is that these things never demand your attention. No notification reminds you to build a stronger marriage. No alarm forces you to exercise. No deadline tells you to reflect on your purpose. So we postpone them until neglect becomes a crisis. Covey's message is simple but powerful. Real discipline isn't about doing more. It's about protecting what matters most before life forces you to. Because every time you say yes to something trivial, you're quietly saying no to something meaningful. And the quality of your life is determined by those choices. Not once, but every single day. Success becomes dangerous the moment you believe someone else has to lose for you to win. From childhood, many of us are taught to compete. Be first. Be better. Beat everyone else. And while competition has its place, Stephen Covey argues that it's a terrible foundation for relationships. He illustrates this with a story from a company whose president wanted to improve teamwork. To motivate his managers, he announced a reward: an all-expenses-paid trip to Bermuda for the best manager. It sounded like a great incentive. Instead, it created the exact opposite of teamwork. Managers began hiding information, taking credit for each other's work, and competing instead of collaborating. The president got precisely what he rewarded: not trust, not unity, competition. Covey's point is clear. People behave according to the systems they're placed in. If your family, workplace, or friendships reward people for beating one another, don't be surprised when trust disappears. That's why he introduces the win-slash-win mindset. Win-slash-win isn't about being soft or avoiding difficult conversations. It's about believing that lasting success doesn't have to come at someone else's expense. Sometimes the best outcome is one where both sides benefit. And if that isn't possible, Covey suggests something even wiser: win-slash-win or no deal. Walk away respectfully rather than forcing an outcome that leaves one side resentful. That requires integrity, courage, and an abundance mentality. The belief that there is enough opportunity, success, and growth for everyone. The strongest relationships, the healthiest families, and the best teams aren't built on rivalry. They're built on trust, because in the parts of life that matter most, when one person wins and everyone else loses, nobody truly wins. Most people think communication begins when they start talking. Covey believed it begins when they stop. He shares the story of a father who couldn't understand why his teenage son was withdrawing from school. Like many parents, his first instinct was to give advice. Study harder. Focus more. You're capable of better. The words were well-intentioned, but nothing changed because the father was trying to solve a problem he didn't yet understand. One day, instead of offering another lecture, he simply listened. Really listened. His son finally admitted what had been buried beneath the silence. I don't think I'm smart enough. Suddenly, the issue wasn't laziness. It was fear. It was self-doubt. And once the father understood what his son was actually carrying, the conversation changed completely. So did their relationship. Covey calls this empathic listening. Not listening to reply, not listening to argue, not listening so you can tell your own story. Listening to understand another person's reality. Think about the people you trust most. They're probably not the ones who always had the perfect advice. They're the ones who made you feel heard. That's the power of understanding. When people feel judged, they become defensive. When they feel understood, they become open. Only then are they willing to hear your perspective. In a world where everyone is rushing to be heard, the rarest skill isn't speaking. It's listening with genuine curiosity. And sometimes, the greatest gift you can give another person isn't an answer. It's the feeling that for a moment, someone truly understands them. Most people believe compromise is the highest form of cooperation. Stephen Covey disagreed. He believed compromise often means both people walk away having lost something valuable. You settle for less not because it's the best solution, but because neither side is willing to think beyond their own position. Synergy is different. It's the belief that when people genuinely respect each other's perspectives, they can create a solution that neither could have imagined alone. Covey illustrates this with the story of a developer and a bank locked in a costly legal dispute. Months of conflict had drained time, money, and trust. Each side was focused on proving the other wrong. Before the case went any further, they agreed to try something different. Instead of arguing, they practiced the principles behind the previous habits. They listened. They sought to understand. They looked for a win-slash-win outcome instead of a victory over the other side. Something unexpected happened. As both sides began expressing their real concerns instead of defending their positions, the tension slowly disappeared. New ideas emerged. Possibilities that neither side had considered suddenly became obvious. By the end of the meeting, they reached a solution that satisfied everyone. Not because someone gave in, but because they created a better alternative together. That's synergy. It's the moment when different experiences, different personalities, and different perspectives stop becoming obstacles and start becoming strengths. Covey reminds us that creativity rarely comes from everyone thinking the same way. It comes from people who are willing to listen, challenge one another with respect, and build something greater than either side could have built alone. Real breakthroughs don't happen when we insist on being right. They happen when we're humble enough to believe someone else might help us see what we've been missing. Imagine trying to cut down a tree with a dull saw. Hour after hour, you keep pushing harder. You become exhausted, frustrated, convinced that if you just put in a little more effort, eventually the tree will fall. Then someone asks a simple question, "Why don't you stop for a moment and sharpen the saw?" The man replies, "I don't have time. I'm too busy sawing." That, Covey says, is how most of us live. We're so busy chasing results that we forget to take care of the person producing those results. Habit 7 is about renewal. Not because rest is a luxury, because renewal is what makes long-term effectiveness possible. Covey encourages us to invest in 4 areas of our lives: our physical health through rest, movement, and proper care; our mental growth through learning, reading, and staying curious; our spiritual life by reconnecting with our values, purpose, or faith, whatever reminds us why we do what we do; and our social and emotional well-being by investing in the relationships that give life meaning. Neglect one area for too long, and the others eventually suffer. You might build an impressive career while losing your health. You might achieve financial success while feeling emotionally isolated. You might stay endlessly productive while quietly burning out. Covey's message is simple. You are the greatest asset you'll ever manage. And if you never take time to renew that asset, even your greatest achievements will eventually become impossible to sustain. Real effectiveness isn't about running faster, it's about becoming stronger. Remember the man from the beginning? The one who spent 20 years climbing the corporate ladder, only to discover that success alone couldn't fill the emptiness inside. His real problem wasn't his career, it wasn't his ambition. It was the foundation he built it on. That's Stephen Covey's greatest lesson. Your life doesn't change because you find a better planner, a better morning routine, or another productivity hack. It changes when you become a better person. When your character becomes stronger than your circumstances. When your principles guide your decisions. And when success is measured not only by what you achieve, but by who you become. So here's my challenge to you. Don't try to practice all 7 habits this week. Just choose one. Live it intentionally, then come back and tell me what changed. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more timeless ideas from books that can genuinely change how you think, subscribe to MacReads and join me in the next one. Until then, keep reading, keep growing, and keep building your life from the inside out.